Hello, everyone. It's episode 154 of the Synth Network show. Welcome, everyone. Finding it difficult to find passion and enthusiasm at the moment, given what's going on here. But it's a welcome distraction for a couple of hours anyway. So welcome to the show. Thank you for joining, as per usual. All the regular people I can see in the chat. I know there are going to be some people missing because they've been down in Chiswick today, and we'll speak about that in a little while. But welcome everyone, and I hope that you've had a fantastic week since last we met. And we've got not a huge amount of news, so there'll be a lot of chit chat and pontificating and testiculating and all that kind of stuff going on. But we do have somebody filling in for our Ben this week. Last week, of course, we had Manny Fernandez, and we had a great time with him. We'll meet Ben's suitable replacement in just a moment. Before we do, let's cross over to the west of London and to Mr. Kent Spong. Good evening, sir.
Greetings.
How are you?
Yes, cool. Yeah,
been busy.
Quite an afternoon. Yeah.
Anything special?
Oh, I was watching the stream of the
yes,
memorial.
Of course.
Yeah, I kept it together right up until the end.
Yes, yeah, it was a bit emotional, as the kids say, but a lovely thing to happen. So I'm glad that so many people managed to turn up either in person or online.
Indeed.
But we'll chat about that in a little while. Good to have you, mate, as always.
Yeah,
and let's see who we've got in Ben's hot seat tonight. All the way from Gloucestershire in the UK, it's our very, very good friend, Mr. Andrew Longhurst, with his lovely E5000 Ultra T-shirt. That's very retro.
Yeah. Hi, how are you? How are you all?
And his
very
vanishing
well.
hair.
And in fact, yeah, you've got vanishing hair. It keeps sort of cutting out.
My
back
vanishing
background.
hair. Yeah, I've got a background. You don't really want to see my orifice.
How's things with you, sir?
They're good, thank you. I haven't yet managed to catch up on today's proceedings, but I will do later on. That was. It seems like it was very well attended, as you say. We'll talk about that later. And there's some fairly interesting stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, you've been doing your homework.
Yeah.
I gave you a gold star.
Yes, I got a gold star. Oh,
He asked for one. I had to give it to him.
Hang on.
Oh! Look at that. He's disappeared
go.
completely.
He's a
Go on then.
changeling.
I've got a gold star from
There
my
you go.
wife.
Hey.
Look at that.
There you go.
No,
Oh.
you see, this is it's blanking it out. Technology
go.
fail.
There we go.
No. Oh, I can't see what it says.
There.
What does it say?
I hear you and brave little soldier. What is lovely oven? And I get that when I'm ill. So I get to wear that
Oh, okay.
when I'm ill because I get a gold star then. So I can't wear it today, but there we go. So I've got 2 gold stars. So my life is almost complete. One more.
Indeed. But thank you, first of all, thank you for stepping in and filling Ben's considerable size 9s. I'm assuming that actually he's a small guy. I think he's got smaller feet than size 9s. But anyway, as I've mentioned before, Ben is on a small sabbatical, shall we say. He's just taking a little bit of a breather. He's got some things on, so he's taking a few weeks off. And so we had Manny last week. We've got Andrew this week. Who knows who we might have next week? We might even have a show next week because that's going to be kind of stress levels max because that's the Friday before I vacate this place. So who knows? It'll be chaos. Maybe you'll see the removals men carrying me out mid-show. Get in the van, Puricelli. But there you go. Anyway,
Wouldn't be the
not
first
a
time
huge...
that's happened.
Well, quite. Yeah, closer to the truth than you think. So yeah, I've been stuck in a meat wagon in central London. That's a long story. We shan't tell it here. So before we crack into what little news there is, let's just first of all just remind everybody that please do like, comment, subscribe and share because you love us. And if you don't, well then don't, and hit the dislike button. You know, we hope you do like us, and we try our hardest. Honestly, we do. So if you could subscribe, ring that bell, you get notified of every show when that happens. Of course, that's quite handy at the moment when our North American friends have jumped the gun, as they always do, with changing the clocks. So they've all gone an hour forward, and we've stayed here, and we actually go on Sunday. So that's going to be fun. One less hour to stick things in boxes. But yes, it's always handy to subscribe, because then you get the notifications and you know exactly when to come and see the show. So do that thing. We are across Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and of course YouTube, and we broadcast on all of those platforms except Instagram, because they don't do that. But we are on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube and Twitch, if either of those alternatives are suitable for you. You can go and watch us over there. If you have any questions for us during the show, please do stick a big capital Q in front of them so that we can see them, and we'll put them to one side and ignore them completely. No, we will address every single question. If you want to make a donation to the show, you can do that through Super Chat or Super Stickers, or you can use PayPal if that's your thing. All donations gratefully received, and it just pays to keep us on air. No profits are made. It's all gets ploughed back into the channel. We do this for the love of it. And I think that's pretty much all of the housekeeping stuff out of the way. So let's get rid of all of that. Go away. There we go. That's it. And I think that pretty much does all of the housekeeping. So where shall we start, gentlemen? I think let's start with a bit of hardware for a bit of software. It kind of crosses yes. So this is an interesting device. It's the Logue CL1, which is a Kickstarter project. It's only just started the last few days. It's got 26 days to go. Only 19 backers at the moment, and they've got a target of around £132,000. They're nearly up to 8,000 at the moment. So this is specifically a controller for Ableton Live, but it's a controller with this kind of oldie sort of analogy type feel to it, and they are claiming that this is really sort of like analog controls for the digital world. And it looks a lovely thing. It looks very well built. Obviously these are prototypes, but let's have a quick look at it in action. Let me just go and find this video. This is one improvement to this service that I wish we could queue up multiple things all in one go, but I can't, so I apologize for showing you our ugly mugs again. But here we go. Let's stick this on the screen, press play, and get rid of my notifications out of the way there. Have a look at this.
Alright, I'm gonna map a new device. As you can see, I have the OBXD1 opened here, and also the CL1 plugin. I've already connected the OBXD1 to the instrument, but as you can see, there's nothing on the screens, and also the VST is completely empty. So let's create a mapping. So I click here in the VST on the first knob, then I change the volume. As you can see here, the volume also changes. And now I have direct control over that parameter. I can connect all parameters to the buttons, but we've even made it easier to create a new mapping with the auto select function. So I select it, and then I've selected this parameter. As you can see, I can create mappings super fast. So like that, they're all connected. I think that's plenty. And then also here on the device, I can control everything about that VST plugin very easily.
And there you go.
On vacation.
That's essentially.
I don't think you're feeling it.
What? If we need to explain it, you're definitely.
I'm really not feeling it today. Let's get rid of that off the screen.
They're good for removal vans. I don't know.
Yes, yeah. We should get some money from Hertz
Other
for that.
car rental companies are available.
I know.
Apparently.
So, Logue CL1. It's an analog style controller, but very much with a digital heart. Every control seems to have its own little LED strip screen at the top, and then there's dedicated buttons and so on and so forth. But it is primarily designed to work with Ableton Live, which I guess is probably a good thing, because if you start trying to be all things to all men and women and everything in between, things start getting very muddly and very confused and maybe not working so well. So look, yes, it's just an Ableton Live thing, and so if you don't have Ableton Live, this really isn't going to be much interest to you at the moment, I guess. But maybe there's the promise of once they get this built and sold out there, they might develop drivers and stuff for other things. So I watched
on the website. They do say they are working or looking at other platforms as well, Cubase, etc. So yeah,
he's proving that he actually did do some homework today. Look at that, it's amazing. See. When I watched that video, I thought, oh God, have I got to go through and click and make a map for every instrument? And technically, yes, but I'm sure that once maps are made, they'll be shared around. But then when he hit that auto button, it was just like, tick, 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 it was all, very quick and efficient. And I thought, oh, actually, that's not too bad at all. I kind of like that. So the unit itself is €595, which works out around 525 UK. Is that too much for a kind of dedicated controller or not? I don't know. It all depends what your mileage is. But it does look incredibly well built. It does have a very nice style to it, and of course, it's got these wonderful little OLED screens above each of the controls, so you know exactly what you're messing around with. It's a lovely thing. Thoughts, gentlemen? I don't care who goes first. Take your pick.
Kent.
Okay. Yeah. I can see where he's going with this. It was just a couple of little things that just floated across my mind. If you, for instance, call up a VST that uses sliders like an ARP 2600.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I found to be a huge pain in the rectum was turning a knob to indicate moving a slider.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as intuitive as it sounds. You think, oh no, it's all right, you've got the extremes. But it's not actually that nice to do. This is basically the same as the controller that I built.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd crowdfunded it. I can tell you that for nothing. And so we're looking at a CC Learning dumb controller.
Mm-hmm.
When they say it's specific to Ableton Live, what exactly is making it specific as such?
I guess it's the software that goes in that connects to the Ableton interface.
Okay.
Because there's that kind of that mapping controller, the mapping software that we saw.
Which seems a little bit like a component that wasn't really needed because the VSTs will CC learn anyway.
They should.
So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah. What can I say? It's another controller. Dedicated controllers. They can be both wonderful and awful for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at the touch digital controller, for instance. I mean, we did supply actually instrument maps with it that you just dumped in, and everything was mapped out automatically. So that's something you could do with this actually, which will make it a bit more attractive as well when people have to use them. Yeah, fine, go for it. The price seems pretty cool. If this is what you're looking for, then fine. But, you can buy controllers generically that will do precisely what that is doing.
Yeah.
So,
fair point.
So I will now leave and shoot myself in the head.
Mr. Longhurst, before he does that, so you have a chance to say goodbye. Your thoughts on this?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I love the look of it. I love the analog sort of lots of knobs. It's very much hitting what has been the zeitgeist of modular sort of feel and knobs and big knobs and all that kind of stuff. No FNAF in that, by the way. but I wonder about it. I mean, I think it's clearly, as Kent said, one wonders why Ableton. It may be that they happen to have a dev kit for that, or they had some help from Ableton to do something. Who knows? You have to choose one to start with. But I'd have thought you'd have chosen something a little more with a little more breadth to how it works, so it can talk to a lot of other things. It seems to limit the market. But that said, it looks nice enough. The displays above each knob give a decent amount of information back. Things color up so you can see if you've got multiple things you're controlling at the same time. You can do that. But I guess my question with it is, I think it's a bit like Kent has said, which is knobs for sliders. Not sure about that, and also at the moment it seems dedicated. We will see where that goes, but dedicated controllers, and I'm thinking of things that are very similar in some way. So there's things like the machine, which is dedicated to all of the NI stuff. That's pretty good if you've got NI, but I'm not sure that it actually talks very well to anything else, which makes it useful if you've got that library, but otherwise not so much so. Novation, with their SL series, they had with the first series, they had auto mapping in that, and that came out I think in 2005 or something. That did a pretty good job, and the auto mapping on that was pretty rocking. It was pretty rocking, and it had sliders as well as knobs, and it was a pretty good machine. But of the latest crop, and I know there are new versions of both of those, by the way. There's the Machine Mark III and Novation Mark III as well. They seem to have lost some of the functionality. I think the Mark III Novation has lost the auto mapping, which kind of one has to question why. And then I was just looking around for another something, and there's the MP MIDI, which is currently sold out. But that's the one. Do you want me to? I think I've got it here somewhere. Do you want me to?
By all means, do a screen share and make use of technology.
Yeah, let me just try and. There we go. So, screen share. I know it's here somewhere.
Should be at the bottom there.
Present. There we
There
go.
you go.
This is where you accidentally load up your fans page, isn't it?
Share screen. Right, let's just have a look. It's easiest with two monitors. Let's just see if we've got either here. No, we don't. So let's just try moving this across and try again.
Reaches for pad and pencil.
No, here we go. There.
Quick scroll.
Gotcha.
Go on in.
Back.
Aha.
So that's the that's the MP.
I remember this.
MP MIDI, and that's once you convert euros to pounds and everything else, it's not far off the same price. The difference being that it's got a touch screen in the middle. I believe it also has, if I can find, there we go, Model 1 sold out. But I believe it also has, each of these knobs refers to a specific, you can either auto maps, or it gives you dedicated displays for each of the either instruments or effects or combinations thereof. And because it's touchscreen, sliders, you touch the screen and you slide.
Slide it, yeah. Yeah, I think we've spoken about this before.
I was looking at that and thinking that's a far better controller in very much the same, a far more widely applicable controller in very much the same kind of area. So much as I love the, I'll come out of sharing now.
That's right. I can. Yeah, there we go.
Much as I love the, much as I love the MP MIDI, low CL1, the look of it, I'm not quite sure what it's there for.
Yeah.
When there are other things out there that seem to do 99% of what it's doing, and possibly it looks pretty.
The thing is
that enough?
Yeah, it does. It looks really nice, and it has that kind of vintagey look about it. But first of all, Ableton controllers are not rare things. Many companies make many Ableton specific controllers, and some of them are superb, and they really fit the Ableton paradigm. And the Ableton paradigm, the thing that it's clip launching, it's sequencing, in that kind of grid fashion. It's not always about having hands-on control over an individual synth at a time. Now, I'm sure I'll have lots of Ableton users saying, well, I fiddle with my synths in Ableton. But as far as Ableton controllers are concerned, they mainly tend to be these, things that kind of mirror what's on the screen, but in a physical form, and allows you to do all of that without having to use a mouse to click on stuff, which is very, very good and very useful. The other thing with controllers, particularly generic controllers, is that they are trying to be all things to all people, and that's not always going to work. There are going to be synthesizers or plugins that just won't lend themselves to this fixed paradigm, which is, you can't change this, you can't move things around. And
the way it's, I suppose part of that is also about the way you interact with the control surface of either a plugin, but particularly hardware, means you work in a certain way. There's a certain signal flow, and you tend to see and work with it in one particular way. This kind of fixed paradigm means I might be completely wrong about this, but it seems that it would lead one towards more of a fixed way of working, a bit like Ableton does. When you start using Ableton, you have to work in Ableton's way. There's no other way of doing it. So I
like the concept. I like the idea of having a controller that you can then just call up a map and it will work with the plugin or the DAW or whatever that you want. There are just going to be so many different permutations of users' workflows and users' rigs, whether it's a physical or a virtual, a software rig, that pretty quickly, I think people are going to go, oh, this doesn't really work with that synth or this synth. Like Kent, points out, if you've got a plugin that uses sliders, then this really isn't going to be very nice to use. However, if you don't, then it'll be fine. So I think it will sell to its target market, but it's not going to gain widespread kind of appeal.
Well, normally the principle of these is that each pot goes down to a controller board, and each pin on that controller board is pre-assigned a CC number by the processor, and that's where the MIDI learn comes in. So when you pick the knob you want to move, and you move the knob you want to move, and it makes it move, and then that's the CC number is predetermined by the controller.
Yeah.
If you've got other things running that are using CCs, you can have interference on that level, because you could have something else suddenly start working for no apparent reason. Your LEDs start going all through the rainbow colours and everything like that. And go, oh, I didn't ask for that. So having the displays over the top is probably where its dedication comes in. So it is actually communicating with the software on a level above CC.
Yeah.
But it also creates its own obsolescence, because you now can't. You can use that controller on anything that uses CC, which is like practically everything.
Yeah.
You won't. There'll be some functions that are not coming through, and that's where its dedication comes from. So, because I used to get emails from people who'd bought the Touch Digital controller, going, "Oh, I'd love to be able to use this on Oddity." You go, "Well, you can just use it as you would use any other controller." But what's on the front panel doesn't bear any resemblance to what you're using on the screen.
Yeah.
But if you remember where the knobs are, or make an overlay for it, and you just plonk it over the top, it's up to you.
I mean, sorry, go on.
No, it's just that if you can update a controller to be far more intelligent than that, so that when you plug it into Cubase, it knows it's plugged into Cubase.
Yeah.
And a new ROM's loaded in, and it becomes a Cubase controller. Or you plug it into Logic or whatever. Yes, it would cost more, but it would be a much more useful controller to have. But controllers generally are considered to be supposed to be as cheap as humanly possible. I mean, this is why there was a lot of people who wanted to hang me from a bloody tree when the touch digital controller came out, because it was like $795, and they're going, for an empty box, are you insane? Pitchforks at midnight. Do you know what I mean? And then you see them going for $4,000 on reverb and going, yeah, fucking. So yeah, I mean, yeah, either do it or don't do it. The only problem with dedicated controllers, great idea. And it does give you a better workflow, a better experience using the controller with whatever it is you're using. But allow the unit you've bought to expand to be, instead of doing other controllers for other doors, make the one you've bought do work with all the doors.
Yeah.
Put all the gubbins inside, it's going to need to do it.
When I saw this, I mean, probably the first, because I've been looking at, Rob very kindly sends out a list of the things we're going to be looking at, and so I didn't have any time today, but you know how you've got a really important job that you can't face doing, so I did the research for this, like you do. I can't get my head into editing right now, so I'm going to do that instead. And one of the things which we're going to be talking about very soon is NAMM, and there's an audio patch piece of hardware on there, which is kind of interesting. Audio patch bag, which we'll come back to, no doubt. And when I saw this, I thought, who's this aimed at? And just from the look of it, the first thing I thought was, you know what? There's going to be a generation. There's going to be 3 years or 4 years worth of people who have gotten into the whole analog modular Euro rack thing, for whom this might have some resonance. They might go, that looks like other things I've got. I want that. I must have that because it's a paradigm I understand. And maybe some of those people are using, maybe they're also using Ableton. Maybe that's what they're using as their thing of choice. I don't know whether or not they've done any marketing on this or market research on this, and maybe they've found a sweet spot somewhere. But then I was looking at this other audio I/O thing, and I think the kind of people that have got the money to spend on these kinds of things, I'm not sure if Ableton is going to be what they use. So, exclusively, I can see Ableton is a very, very good thing for live performance, by the way. So, that's, I can understand for a lot of people. Yeah, that's a good thing, and maybe that's who it's aimed at. Maybe it's aimed at live jams. But yeah, it's an odd one. It's an odd one. It just seems to be a bit of an outlier, and maybe they know something we don't.
Well, yeah, I don't think they do that. I mean, I'd be worried about obsolescence, planned or otherwise, because this is made by a third-party company, and a small one at that. What happens when Ableton say, hey, in Ableton Live, I don't know, what are we on, 11 at the moment? So in Ableton Live 12, we've rebuilt Ableton Live from the ground up. It's got this whiz-bang thing, and it's got that, and it's now doing this, and we can build in this. That thing that this thing relies on, it's not in there anymore because we're not obliged to support that. And all of a sudden, that is 600 quid that you spent is kind of redundant, and it will last as long as you can bear to be on the previous version of the software that you are using. And so you're then stuck on Live 11 until these guys, the company comes up with something. Maybe they're not around anymore. It just seems like a commitment that is built on some shaky foundations, because other components could just change at a whim, and there's nothing to stop that. Nothing to stop that from happening at all. I mean, I bought an Event Easy Bus mixer. I don't know if anybody else remembers these things. Event, I don't know. I don't think Event are around anymore, but they used to make great monitors, and they did this thing called the Easy Bus, and this was early 2000s, and what it was a 3-in-1 unit. In actual fact, if you can see, it's actually there. That's the box. I've still got the box. I still use it. However, it was a 3-in-1 unit, 3-in-1 device. First and foremost, it was a hardware mixer with a digital inside, so you could do all sorts of routing. There was loads of inputs. It had ADAT outputs. It had SPDIF outputs. It had analog outputs. It was a MIDI interface. as well. It had all of these, it's proper hardware mixer with a digital screen and some nice little effects built in. Secondly, it was a control surface for instruments and doors. So you have transport controls, and if you called up the Arturia B3 preset, then the faders become drawbars. And you could do all these, and you could map your controller, your knobs or sliders or buttons on this thing, and build your own templates for your own instruments, and then just recall them from memory. And third of all, it was a USB audio interface. But remember, this is early 2000s. This was USB 1. And so to get around the fact that you could barely record and monitor 2 channels of audio, they actually introduced a PCI card that went in your computer that then allowed you to stream 8 channels of audio via ADAT. So the EasyBus had ADAT, and this had an ADAT input, so you could just go ADAT to ADAT and not worry about the USB part. But Muggins here goes into, I think it was Academy of Sound at the time, and they knew me, and they said, "Oh, come over and have a look at this. You'll like this." And I did, and I was sold, and I bought it, and I did it on HP or whatever, and I got this thing. And 6 months later, Event basically dropped the product, because they knew that it was just pointless wasting any time trying to get it to work with other things that had moved on, that weren't using the things that they'd built it to use. So this kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies, in as much as, am I going to get the same sort of experience of this? Is something out of my control going to render this investment completely redundant after a few years? Now you take Arturia, and they're in the very fortunate position where they make controllers and they make software instruments, and all of their software instruments are made in such a way as they will map all of the key controls to any of their mini labs or key labs controllers. And it's a brilliant interface, and it works really, really well. It's two-way communication. You get all the patch data shown on the screen of your controller, and you say, even on the Minilab 3, you can just call it every time you load the instrument shows up on the screen on the controller, and the controls map to all the major top used facilities within that plugin. So they're in that position where they can do that, because they're making the software and they're making the controllers, and they can make these things work together and continue that sort of working together. So I don't know. I like it. I like anyone that comes up with something cool and interesting. I just don't think personally this is going to be around too long unless they've got something.
Well, if my experience was anything to go by, they'll make 50 and sell 50, and then that'll be the end of it.
Yeah, and I'm sure
it does have the look about it of someone knocked up something for themselves, and then they thought, "Oh, we could sell this. This is good." Yeah. One of the mates has said that you should sell this.
Yeah. And that's why they're doing it on Kickstarter.
We may be defaming them horribly. Maybe it will have massive support, and maybe it will work with everything that's out there, and it will go on to be a huge success. Yeah. I wish them luck. For me, there are better, as you say. There's the Arturia. There's if that's your thing, there's Machine. There's MP MIDI. There's even the old Novation stuff. There's lots of different controllers out there, and if you're going to go for something where the front and the back end, the software and the hardware, have some sort of intrinsic tie, because you're pretty much guaranteed that they're going to continue to work, unless it's something Steinberg, of course.
Yeah. Talking of controllers, and Manny's just brought this to my attention, and I just want to put this out there before we move on to the next one. So let me just share the correct screen. So you might remember some while ago that we talked about a hardware editor for the Yamaha FS1R, which is a massive, sonically massive module which uses FM and formant synthesis, but it suffers from the painting the Sistine Chapel through a letterbox syndrome of being completely impenetrable through such a tiny interface. And a guy actually came up with a hardware controller that he built all by himself, and it looks a little bit like this. That's not all of it. You can't see. It's massive. It's almost as big as probably a 76-note keyboard. It's a massive thing. And the guy's name, this is Manny's just brought this to our attention. It's Robert. I hope I pronounced it Skiryank or something like that. Anyway,
Skiryank. Yeah. Cool.
So he built this, and he built a limited number because they were all handmade. And I think he's got one, and there's probably half a dozen or so knocking around. I don't think he builds them anymore. But he has now said that he's now about to do one for the Yamaha VL1, which would be very interesting. But, talk about dedicated controllers. This is the world of dedicated controllers. If you get a synth, I mean, I don't know how many FS1Rs sold. It was only on sale for about a year before they pulled it. It wasn't a massive thing, but it's built up a cult status. But there was nothing for it hardware-wise. Even Yamaha used this controller when they did the demo video with Dom Segalis some weeks back, and they actually had this controller on there so they could mess around with it. It's a fantastic thing, but it's incredibly niche, incredibly expensive, and only a handful ever really get made. But
that's the purview for a dedicated controller.
Yes.
This is the mistake we made with using a readily available piece of software and doing a dedicated controller for it. Was that people didn't use the software like that anyway. They didn't need control over every single aspect of the instrument on the screen at once. You could do it with eight knobs, and they just wanted to mess with the knobs that they were going to mess with live.
Yeah.
So if we'd done the controller for, say, the GS1, that would have made more sense.
Yeah. So Manny reckons he made about 12 of those FS1R controls, which is not a lot. Paul Sandra in the chat, welcome to you. He'd love a VL1 controller. Well, he's got to purchase it straight away. So fingers crossed. I'd love to find out a bit more about that, because obviously the VL range is something quite special, and his build on those things was really nice. Eric Ribeiro says in the chat, same thing with D-Tronics. D-Tronics are a company, I think, in Holland that have made a range of dedicated controllers. They do one for the DX7. They do one for the Reface DX. I think they do one for one of the JPs or the JX3Ps or one of those. But again, they're very dedicated. They're not cheap. So it's an interesting. I can't believe we've actually talked about that for about half an hour.
It's called padding.
Amazing. It's called padding. Yeah, we need. Trust me, we need it today.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, we do. We need.
Oh,
we need
my
to,
piles lately, mate. I tell you.
Oh, don't. Seriously, my farmers since this whole bloody house move thing. Oh,
Grapes of wrath.
I've had hues like an oak.
I've had some nuclear fissures going on here myself.
My laddies have never been so gasted.
Anyway, there we go. Let's be nice now, because Dina's in the chat. Okay, everyone. There's a lady in the house. Let's be nice. Let's be nice. Let's see. What should we do next? Well, you mentioned NAMM. Let's talk about NAMM, because we are coming into show season, and NAMM is it's a venerated experience, a venerated show, but of course, like all shows for the last few years, it kind of suffered from obviously COVID and not being able to have people in the same place, and it did a virtual thing, and that was kind of all right. And then it came back last year in June, which was odd because it's obviously normally in January. This year it's happening in April. It's happening in a couple of weeks, well, about 3 weeks' time. And so, along with every NAMM, there is always the speculation as to what we might find, or what might get released. And we're starting to hear little whispers every now and again. Nothing, however, really that exciting. It seems like Super Booth in Berlin is where synthesizers go to, announce themselves. They, when they leave, what did the ladies used to do back in the 18th century? Finishing school, used to go, and then they used to get put out onto the circuit, didn't they? Back in those days.
Lady.
The ladies, I'm a lady. But yeah, that's where they seem to go now, to announce synthesizers. NAMM's always been a very broad palette. It's it's everything. They have these things called guitars.
The thing to chop wood with.
Yeah. I've seen people throwing them around. They call them axes, don't they? So
I think
they have those things, as well as drums, of course. Because
I once saw a banjo there.
Could you smack a cow's ass with it though? That's a footballing term. Could hit a cow's ass with a banjo or something along those lines. Or was it a barn door with? I don't know. Anyway, we deviate, which we need to do. Pad. So yeah, NAMM 2023 is coming. What are we going to see? What would we like to see? I know that carpet. Yes, Andy. Yes, get the carpet cam out.
Get the carpet cam out, mate. Yeah.
So I know that at least one of the big manufacturers is probably going to announce something very new at NAMM, but cannot say what it is, although I think most people will understand that that there's going to be something coming, but that's about it. But have you heard any whispers? Have you got any wants or needs, or do you think it's just going to be kind of a bit tame this year? I don't know. What do you reckon?
Well, shall I?
Yeah, go for it. So
it seems that this year it's very much focused on professional audio,
yes.
rather than synthesis or anything else. It's professional audio. So on the main page for NAMM this year, they've got a whole bunch of stuff that they've mentioned previously, and it's all audio interfaces. The only synth on there is the Oberheim OBX8. Yep. There's the Focal Solo 6 studio monitors, SL Bus plus stereo compressor, Adam Audio speakers, Austrian Audio studio set microphone, summing mixers, and the Flock Audio Patch XD digital patch bay, which I've mentioned earlier. So it seems, I'm not quite sure what to make of NAMM this year. I know I used to love going. We used to go every year. This was from one of those. But it does seem to be, the tone seems this year to be focused much more on that end of the market than anything else, and perhaps straying more into the broadcast side and video side, as that's where an awful lot of activity is.
Yeah. It is interesting that Roland aren't going to be there. They're not even at Super Booth this year.
Really?
So, yeah. I've just literally gone to the NAMM website and keyed it in. Korg are there, Yamaha are there, but Roland are not. And I believe Korg and Yamaha are going to be at Super Booth as well. So have Roland now decided that it's just easier to, as many manufacturers seem to have done, and I think we've spoken about this before, that since COVID, excuse me, manufacturers are just releasing stuff when they want to release it, not having to work towards a deadline or a schedule for a show, and maybe have to show something that's not complete or not coming out yet, or that's half baked or whatever. So yeah, it's an
interesting. You see, when I first saw this list that we've got in front of us, I wondered how they would tie together, but actually they do. We're covering NAMM. We're going to be coming on to the Kodomo. And curiously, just talking about Roland, we're going to be covering, taking a look at the new Xenology, cloud release, and then Futuri Media, AI, and all of this stuff. I think where we are at the moment for synth manufacturers is they're in a curious place. Roland have clearly made a decision. We can come back to that, or we can move on to it. But they've clearly made the decision that cloud is the way to go. Although I suspect their hardware sales, I wonder what's going to happen with that. And again, as I say, we'll have a look at the Xenology thing, which is an interesting offering. And I wonder, there's the more boutique manufacturers, people like Oberheim and those kinds of guys who are turning out classics reinvented, just adding that little bit of extra, and they seem to have a place. And then there's the people like the Kodomo and various others, but the vast majority seem to be moving more into the virtual space and into the cloud-based space, as indeed everyone is with AI and everything else. One has to, people I think are very concerned, and certainly companies are very concerned about what the future holds. And we've got a whole section about that at the end, haven't we, Rob?
Yes, indeed.
So yeah, NAMM, I'm not quite sure what to expect from it this year.
Yeah,
I know a couple of people that are going. I'm not sure how excited or otherwise they'll be once they've been, because I can't see anything specific. There's nothing there that would make me want to go. I've got to see this. This is the first time, and
But this is the thing, though, with NAMM. NAMM was, for many, many years, the global epicenter of, whether it's music technology such as synthesizers, or whether it's guitars, whether it's drums, whether it's banjos, whatever it might be. That one event of the year, the Winter NAMM, was the global event.
Yeah,
so everyone went there, everyone exhibited there. It was the thing. And then gradually we started to see smaller events, either in North America or here in Europe, in the UK, and other places around the world. Then, of course, COVID happens, and everything starts shutting down, and people start saying, well, yeah, I'd like to go to NAMM, but actually I go, if I'm here in Europe, I can just nip across to Berlin. It's not very expensive to get to Berlin, or I can go to Synthfest in Sheffield, or I can do Gearfest in London, or I can do... There are other options now, whereas NAMM before used to be the place to be. Now it's not so much, and I think that so many people... not willing to travel long distances, maybe not of being able to afford to travel, not just visitors but exhibitors, companies, their budgets are tight, costs are soaring, fuel prices are out of control. What do? Do you send a big team of people to NAMM to demonstrate something that might not give you the return on your investment of just putting a few people in the booth?
And there's also the kind of saturation point, and I think one of the benefits and the curses of online cloud-based subscriptions is it's the perfect model for throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, into the offering, right? Because you get all this wonderful stuff, and you're not spoiled for choice, and everything's there if you want it, and that's great. But I think one of the issues at the moment for synth manufacturers and others is just they're almost trying to do so much and mention so many things that there's no clear message. I think one of the brilliant things with the Oberheim, coming back to that, was it's a really simple sell, right? It's this is the synth that originally came out, with all the things and the various different variants, but it's that synth, 8 voices, thank you very much. You know what you're going to get. This is the sound of it. Do you want one? And that's a really simple sell, isn't it? It's an Oberheim, for God's sakes. And it's brand new. It'll be reliable. It does all this additional stuff. But essentially, it's a really simple sell. And I think with a lot of the other platforms, that there's 9 synth engines on the Kronos, and there's other synth engines with multiple effects and mixing. And yes, you can record, and SSDs and blah, blue, bling, blah. And it's kind of, what? Give me a clear, clean message. That's the Moog, the mini Moog relays. Whether or not you like the price of it, it's a very simple offering, and it's got a couple of additional upgrades that make it really worth considering. So I wonder if there isn't just that fatigue and a real problem with people being saturated, not knowing exactly what it is. People are bringing out new stuff all the time, especially the big boys.
And
but
let's not forget
anything that's clearly defined.
Let's not forget that NAMM is technically a trade show. This is where the manufacturers go and the distributors and the retailers go, and people like us just going along to nerd out over synthesizers was always, that was further down the chain. Whereas places like Superbooth and Synthfest, that's about manufacturers reaching out directly to consumers and engaging them, directly like that. So NAMM, I guess, needs to change more. I guess it probably has started changing. I can't comment because I've never been to NAMM. It was always one of my always on top of my list of places that I want to go, and now I really honestly I don't care.
Let me a bit of an insight with it, because when I was working for these guys, it was a big event for them, and you're right, it's a trade show, and the whole focus of that event then and for many years was talking to the dealers and trying to sign up as much business as you could with dealers from around the globe. And the question they'd always have is, well, look, we like what you've got, or not, but we like what you've got. What are you going to do with the marketing? How are you going to help us to sell this? Because we're going to put these in our stores and we then have to sell them. So how are you going to bring them to the attention of the public, and how easy are you going to make it to make these things simple sells? That's how much support will we get? And I think possibly the problem now is that link is, what marketing support are you going to give us? Well, we'll give you all of this. No, it's too much. It's too much. Tell me something. Give me 5 points that are going to sell this. There we go. My fingers have gone off. Give me 5 points that will sell it. So it was always a really big thing for that. And I'm not sure, with the way people are moving online as they are now, I'm not sure what dealers are looking for in terms of support. And for some manufacturers, I think probably Superbooth, talking directly to the public, is a better way of doing that support for dealers. Yeah. Because the other thing is, let's face it, an awful lot of people will just look at all the dealers. They'll search for their synthesizer of choice, and they'll find who's reliable, that's selling it cheapest, and get it to them today. Yeah, that's what they're going to look for.
Exactly. And then you've got companies like Behringer now who have their super dealer network that don't even bother with trade shows, and they're probably selling more units. I don't know, maybe not so much at the moment, but they have been known to be selling many more units than anyone else, and they don't need trade shows. They just do their own little thing.
Their model's very simple. Buy the synths you always wanted to have. Yeah. We're now making them again, and that's again like Oberheim. It's a very simple sell. Yeah. So
What do you think, Kent? You sat there nodding away. Any opinions on this? I mean,
well, NAMM used to be big, like you say. It used to be the show. It's not NAMM's fault. It's just the world moved on.
Yes.
A manufacturer can see good return on any product that they put out by putting a video up on YouTube. Right? That costs very little money in comparison to shifting everything and moving 30 people over to California and setting it all up. The one-on-one thing is better at smaller shows anyway, where it's more personal. But NAMM always used to be massive because it was that show. It was the one show, and everybody from all over the globe was coming over.
They're a music messer.
Exactly.
Music messer.
Yes.
Yeah. The Ori were turning up. It was so central. You know what I mean? So it made sense that it was big, it was brash, everybody was there except Hans, because of the famous saying, Hans doesn't go to NAMM, NAMM goes to Hans. And it's true. And it's run its course now. And what it needs to do is reduce and become more personal and more fun, and less because it's kind of up its own arse now, but for reasons that don't exist anymore, and it needs to reinvent itself now.
Give me a reason to come, which is what you're going to do that's going to
make things
to sell this stuff. If it's for dealers, and if it's for the public, give me a reason to buy this and differentiate it.
Because I've even spoken to people who said, I love going to Superbooth. There's this coffee shop there. It's not about keyboards or anything like that. The coffee. Oh my God, it's to die for. To me, darling, it's absolutely wonderful. And you go, and so NAMM needs to relax and be more fun.
So what you're saying is that it needs to be a raft of currywurst stands outside NAMM to make it more super boothy. And absolutely, because that's all I'm going for.
Well, is Super Booth taking over from that?
And free puppies for everyone.
Free puppies, yeah.
Free. Got to have free puppies.
I think Super Booth has hit on. When it started, it was this, kind of a small niche thing. It was, wasn't it? Didn't it start off at the Funk House as well? It was in, an indoor thing. Now it's moved to Fez, which is this much more, open space with, all these cabins and things, and it's a much more pleasant, chilled environment. And also, the world of synthesizers. If we're just going to take our little segment of the world, that's changed over the past few years. I remember speaking when I was when my boss was Mike McGrath of Muff Wiggler fame. He would work he would do a couple of companies would get him in to demonstrate things on their stands, and I would try and phone him to how's it going, but he'd never get a signal because all that stuff was down underground. All the modular stuff was buried away in the basements of NAMM. Nowadays, you go to Super Booth or any of these big proper synthesizer shows, and all of the modular stuff is there from the moment you walk in the door. There's a big shift in how it's all working, and I don't think that the modular world fits the NAMM model.
Well, it's much more about it's boutique sales. It's much smaller manufacturers selling units. I mean, you will get other people, Korgs and Yamaha and whatever will turn up because they've got product to sell. And particularly Korg are getting into some very interesting things now with their kits and God knows what else. They seem to understand a bit more about where the buyers' heads are. So Super Booth, much better. For me, if I'm gonna pick a show to go to, it's going to be Super Booth at the moment.
Yeah, well, if anybody is going to Super Booth this year, we'll be there. So, looking great, looking good. But we didn't actually sort of cover anything. Are you hoping for anything to appear either at NAMM or Super Booth? Anything that you would like to see? Not necessarily what might be coming, but what would you like to see? Would you like to see, one of the big three come up with a brilliant new powerful synthesizer or just another workstation, or are you looking forward to seeing innovation? I don't know.
I'd like to see personally more MPE and more poly aftertouch controllers. I think that is a really good thing, and I think there's still not enough of it out there. It would be good to see more of that from our end of the spectrum, because that's what articulation is everything. Yeah. It is everything for us. When we started out, I remember having conversations with people in the 70s about how you could never use a synthesizer then to replicate something like a violin because you couldn't in real time articulate it in the same way. Yeah. And what's really interesting is, the CS80 made, it didn't do a violin particularly well, but the articulation in it meant you could perform in a way an awful lot of keyboard players and synthesizer, geeks like ourselves really actually quite liked the guitarist thing. We like the Dave Gilmours and people like that because guess what? They played with such passion and such articulation. And we were hankering after that. So the mob wheel was there and the pitch bend, but it was always a bit, forgive my French, wanky. It was it was never quite the same. So MPE, the latest tranche of MPE, the Osmos, of course the Hydrasynth, those things are extraordinarily good. And so I want to see more of that. I want to see more emphasis on the performance and on articulation because the sound engines, they're almost they're not done to death, but let's get into articulation and see how you then use those sound engines in a different way. And maybe you'll build sound engines in a way that's like Hydrasynth have that are more harmonious with the interface with the playing platform as well.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to actually getting my hands on an Osmos at Super Booth because I've not ordered one. I might even get to touch one before many people who have ordered one. Who knows? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to all of that sort of really cool, interesting stuff, which seems to come out at Superbooth, and hoping that there'll be some exclusives that we can talk about there as well. I think as far as NAM is concerned, I know that one big name is doing something, and that should be interesting. I don't really know much else. And as for what I'd like to see, pretty much the same as you. I there are some really cool things out there already, but MPE and expression, that's something I need to get properly into. I need to get some sort of MPE controller in here. Maybe I will have to bite the bullet once I've moved house to invest in an Osmos. But
so if someone comes out with a 400 quid, 500 quid controller, mother keyboard that has full poly, then that's going to get
ASM. Yes, absolutely. I'm surprised ASM haven't jumped on that sooner. I mean, they might be doing so. I don't know.
Yeah,
but they would be the company to do it. Although, Fatah now have their Poly AT keyboard that people can snap up and put in. But yeah, Kent, very quickly, any wishes, anything you'd like to see?
I know of a couple of things that are coming up, but if I said anything, I'll be found dead in the skip the following morning. I wanted... It's kind of ditto. I would love to see a controller, or it could be a synth. I'm not really fussed, but something that sort of marries the 5D of the Roly, the 4D of the Osmos, the 3D of the Hydrasynth kind of thing, and hopefully 61 keys or more. I'll take 76, no problem. And some well, I get around, and see some more software out there that start supporting these instruments properly. Admittedly, I know it will take time because all this stuff will suddenly come out, and I imagine a lot of software houses are going, we better look into that, haven't we? It seems to be catching on, so. That'd be good. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I know that Project Sam have got apparently whispers about a new Synthophobia. So I've got my fingers crossed that maybe that'll accept more than just note on, note off. That'd be nice. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Time
we will.
Will tell.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting to that busy season now. So we've got NAM April. We've got Superbooth in May. I know that we've got Gearfest in July, Synthfest in October. So and there's going to be, I'm sure there'll be another NobCon and Synthplex and all of these lovely shows. And I think that's where it's all kind of going now, is more focused, more friendly, community-based, user-based rather than industry-based stuff. So yeah, we shall see. But of course, as things pop up from these shows, we will do our best to give them as much coverage as we can, along with everybody else that be doing the same sort of thing. But we'll pick and choose what we do. Okay, thanks guys for that one. There was a couple of things we were going to talk about. Before we do that, I do want to reference what happened today in Chiswick in London. Our dear friend, of course, Dominic Hawken, who co-hosted this show a few times for us, and we were all very close to him, whether it was physically or just online. He had that nature about him that you felt like you were one of his busy mates. That was always one of his wonderful traits. There was the memorial service today at the church in Chiswick, and it was live streamed. So if you want to go and check out the live stream, it goes on for, it says on here about an hour and 53 minutes. It's more like 90 minutes because there was a bit, 25 minutes at the beginning that was just a bit of music, but good music. And there were moments where I think most of us that were watching it had to take a breath and it was very emotional to see Sophia, and she said some amazing things. Nick got up and did a few minutes did a turn, shall we say, and Dom's parents as well. But what I wanted to acknowledge, because he has put so much work into preparing material for the event, was our good friend Mr. Ty Unwin. And the remarkable thing is, as you'll hear him say in just a moment, Ty never actually physically met Dom, ever. They were only ever internet friends, but they were really, really good friends, and they had daughters roughly the same age, and so had lots of things in common, and there was always the plan. But I thought what I would do is, and I'm sure I'm probably not going to get told off for doing this, although Ty might have other. But I thought I'd just play Ty's little speech, because I thought it was funny, it was amusing, it was touching, it was all the right things as you would expect the old bugger to be. So let's just have a little watch of Ty today.
A few days ago, whilst out shopping with my daughter, I came across a display of Toblerones. I like Toblerones a lot, you can see. But what made these Toblerones special was that they all had messages on them. Happy birthday, sorry you're leaving, congratulations, that kind of thing. But one of them really made me take notice. It simply said, top bloke. And that was Dom. He was a top bloke. I had every intention of bringing it here today to show you, but it was a few days ago, and it was delicious, and Dom would have understood. Everyone before me today has told you just how great Dom was, how amazing, how generous, how personable, how sickeningly perfect he was. That's because he simply was all of those things. There's simply nothing left for me to say on that front. Instead, I just want to say a few words on how he affected me personally. But this is where it gets weird, really weird, because we never actually met. I so wish we had. We almost did many times. We were even in the same room once, but somehow we never managed it. Professionally, we'd often appear together on Sonic Talk. We'd often be on the show with Nick and Rich and Matt. Not a hair on our heads between us. We looked like a game of whack-a-mole. But sorting out, actually getting together, that was just too much for two useless, reclusive, synth nerdy men. But we talked loads, always seeming to agree. Always seemed to look at things in the same way, coming from the same place, singing the same praises of the same people, the same artists, slagging off the ones that had annoyed us that week. And of course, we spent every Sunday evening together. I say together. It was actually us and a few hundred people all tuning in to the Mr. Wiggly show, which was actually the Lula May show with her dad getting in the way every so often. Sunday nights, they're not the same now. Although I have to admit, it's great not having to worry about losing my hearing every time that bloody horn went off. The amount of times I would be sat at home screaming, "We're trying to eat our dinner here," after being shocked into missing another mouthful as Kent made his third donation of the night. The great thing about Dom was that you could talk to him about anything. He always listened and was always interested. Synths. We talked a lot about synths. Studio stuff, telling each other what we had to buy next. It was almost like we had our own mini support group. We were there for each other to discuss our addiction, tease one another with whatever our latest toy was. It was like Alcoholics Anonymous for synths. Music, obviously we talked music. In another life, we would definitely have been in a dodgy mid-80s band together. We would have been a one-hit wonder, a cross between Alphaville and Tight Fit, but with more hair. Lots of hair. Big hair. And then we'd have definitely looked more like Right Said Fred when we reformed for the 30-year reunion tour. Every conversation ended with, "We must meet up soon, get the girls together." It was always going to be next month or in the summer or after I've just finished this never-ending commission. But it was fine. We both knew that it would happen, and we both knew that we'd have a great time when it eventually did. Except it didn't. Just to try and balance things out here and there, I keep things in perspective. I tried to think of a list of ways that Dom wasn't perfect. But I have to admit, I struggled. He smiled too much. He was so annoyingly positive. He was always asking for money, although, to be fair, that was donations to Great Ormond Street, so maybe that doesn't count. He was definitely wrong about badgers. Now, this is a niche one here, okay? But he was wrong about badgers. A baboon would win in a battle every day of the week. And if I was in the slightest bit competitive, which I'm not, I could say that I won that one simply because Dom can't argue back. But I wish he could. I'd love to give him a huge hug right now. Although because he was about 8 feet tall, I'm sure I would have ended up just accidentally licking his belly button. Dom, wherever you are, I hope you're still being special and still using your incredible skills for talking without showing your teeth well. We all wish that you'd made it to an age when you could have naturally spoken without your dentures in, and we'd have still laughed with you. Keep being special, Dom, you top bloke.
There you go, and I suppose had applause been appropriate, it would have been ringing around there. But I just thought I'd play that because it was a beautiful eulogy from a beautiful man about another beautiful man. If you want to watch that, I did post a link in the YouTube chat. It is an unlisted live thing, but do go and check that out. There's some really touching moments and some great clips that Ty put together. Ty has been remastering and rebuilding a whole bunch of stuff. In fact, I think tonight or this afternoon after that the event there, they all went to the pub, and there was a 5-hour video that Ty has been putting together of material and clips and songs, and so there you go. What more can you say? Right, let's move on to something else. Let's play a little clip of so in case anybody hasn't sort of noticed, a few I can't do it now. I can't even twist the camera. Can you see that this here? This is the Kodamo. Kodamo. I actually had that confirmed. Manny was right. I was wrong. It is Kodamo. Although, much like MMOUK, it's kind of acceptable in a way to say it in either fashion. But anyway, it's the masked one, and it's actually rather good. But unfortunately, I was hoping to just give you a little sonic demonstration. However, Muggins here packed his mixer and now only has 2 inputs, and one of those is currently taken up by my microphone. And as much as I know that you'd probably all like me to stop speaking for a while, it kind of messes up the flow of the show. So luckily, just before we came on air, Kodamo, I almost have to catch myself every time now, they just released another little clip of what this synthesizer can do. This is demonstrating the notch filter, no less. Let's have a watch of this. Go on then, play. There you go. Just short and sweet. But maybe that gives you an idea of some of the sonic capabilities. If you want to go to the Kodamo YouTube page, there are lots of other little clips. We played a montage of them last week. But yeah, it's a really nice instrument, and hopefully in a few weeks' time, once I've got everything reconnected, we'll be able to do our special, because we are going to do a special on it. And as I've said before many times, what a wonderfully edited manual it has. No, it really is. It's a great manual. Physical as well. But yeah, Kadamo is there and will be available to buy from March 31st. So we'll talk about that a bit more later on. Any thoughts on that one before we quickly move on? Like the sound of that?
I need to hear more than that.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
I know.
You know, it's yeah.
But
it's a synthesizer, so obviously I'm interested.
Yeah.
It has keys, so obviously I'm interested. And
Yeah.
It's electronic, so obviously. Other than that, I need to hear more. If I'm just putting it out there. If they want to send me one, so I can actually explore it a little bit more in depth over the next decade or so, and I'll get back to them on it.
Yeah, quite. But by the way, this is a full production unit that has been loaned to me with an option to buy. So no freebies here. But I think I will be taking out that option. It's an interesting. We were talking about it before we came on air, and I had a conversation with Ty yesterday, actually, because once Ty hears of a new synth, he wants to know about it, so he'll phone you up and really pick your brains, and he really did. He put me right on the spot. I felt like, oh Jesus, I'm not a salesman, but yes, I'll try and justify this synthesizer. And it is not going to be particularly cheap. However, it is a really nice sounding instrument, and it does two things that I've not seen any other instrument do. Whether that justifies the price tag or not, that's up to you. First of all, it's bit masking synthesis, which takes a sine wave, chops it up. This is a real basic sort of explanation of it. Chops it up into 256 little slices, which then can be rearranged to form traditional waveforms with an edge, and everything else in between as well. And lots of harmonically rich tones can be had from those. Lots of envelopes in there, lots of a really nice filter, state variable 12 dB per octave, low pass, high pass, band pass and notch filter in there. What else? Play modes. Play modes is probably the most fun thing, because it responds to the way you play your keyboard, and you can have it do some really cool things with slurring or combinations of monophonic and polyphonic performance modes type things. So it is interesting, and it's incredibly well made as well. So there you go. But more on that once we can connect it properly and bring you a special. But yeah, there we go. Right, what should we do now?
Can I just make a couple of observations about it?
Of course you. Oh no, yes, please do. Yes.
So before the show, we talked about this, and throughout the show, we've had a kind of a weird theme going about articulation and various other things. And I think the mask is interesting. It's interesting. I think, like Kent, I want to get hands on with it. It's a synth. Is it worth the near $2,000 that they're asking for it? I don't know. I haven't played with it. It's 10 voices. I think what's really interesting, however, about it is that it's not MPE or not poly aftertouch, but the articulation modes. There's a video which you can see if you search Kodamo Mask 1 - hybrid monophonic polyphonic brackets Molly mode. You'll see that it does something quite extraordinary, which is you can play something with one hand, which is a polyphonic chord, and with the other hand you can still play polyphonically if you play staccato, but if you play legato with that, it's slurring between. It becomes a monophonic part, as it were. So and that with the slurs means you're articulating with it in a way that I've not heard anything else do. And being as we were talking about this earlier, about the whole idea of articulation, I'm really interested in this. It sounds all right. It sounds quite nice. I'd need to hear more of it, of the synth engine. I'm not sure if it's worth $2,000 yet, but it's certainly different. It's a new it's a different form of synthesis. and just the articulation is worth taking a look at. And it seems reasonably well packed out, and it's by someone new. And
Exactly.
I guess the question with this is, for most people that are players, will it allow me personally to perform on it in a way that I can't on something else, and will that inspire me to invent new sounds and come up with different compositions and different ways of playing? If it does that, it's worth every penny.
The one thing I've noticed about it, and given my propensity for FM synthesizers, the way that the keyboard is connected to the engine, in terms of the engine responding very dynamically to your performance through velocity, after touch, through the mod wheel as well, and also through these play modes, which, as you say, give it a really kind of unique form of expression. It has a feel of, kind of classic FM in terms of performance stuff. Sonically, it really does run the gamut of, there's some very lovely, fat, warm analog and all those horrible other words that we use to describe synonyms. But it also has a very digital sound. There's PPG stuff that it's instant, sort of PPG. There's FME stuff going on in there. There's combinations of stuff. So I think what it's kind of lacking at the moment is somebody who's found some really killer ways of programming it. The presets are all very nice, but there needs to be some sort of like, what do they call it? What's the word for it? The killer. It's like a killer. You have a killer feature that just makes everybody go, wow.
And that's what we were talking about earlier. Yeah, the reason. It's give me a reason why I should buy it and take a look at it. What distinguishes it from anything else? It's not just the synth engine. It's the way. And actually, I've been looking at some of the things. The way the LFOs work with each other to cycle through stuff, so it gives you that kind of wavetable experience. That's there's some very cool features with this. It's whether or not. But then my question comes a bit like with the discussion on the Logue. It's can someone else do this as well? So if you've got a Hydra synth which has all those wonderful performance controls, is that just a firmware update away from being able to do the same kind of keyboard modes?
Yeah.
And if
well, these kind of play modes have been available for donkeys, just not in a hardware keyboard.
Yes.
I mean, these are articulation scripts that you would normally find in an orchestral library or a string library or whatever. And it's the first time I've seen it in hardware, but that then in turn allows you to use that engine in that way, whereas any keyboard in here could do those articulations if the software they were performing with had those scripts in them. So it seems to be quite unique from that point of view, certainly. And it will give it a different level of performance that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise on another keyboard.
Yeah.
But because it's not MPE or because it's not poly aftertouch, then I just wonder whether or not that's not going to be something that everyone, if it becomes popular, it's not going to be that hard with a digital synth, because it's the keyboard isn't that special, right?
Yeah, so it's going to be more about how it plays it in its own dedicated environment.
Yeah,
and which is fine. In terms of the way, I mean, scrolling through waveforms using an LFO isn't new. I'm desperately trying to remember the name of the old analog synths that can do that. But because when they say, this master technology, it does it in a different way. It's the same as saying, well, I got this racehorse that wins races every weekend, but now I've decided to put it in a dress, put a fez on it, and make it join the Labour Party, and it still wins the horses, the races exactly the same way as it did before, but he does it in a different way.
But it looks damn fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
especially if it's
the fez
flower just behind the ear as well. Excellent. Yeah, so it seems to have a lot going for it. Again, there needs to be something within the product as a whole that's going to have to reach out and grab me by the nudges and pull me in and go, here's the money.
Yeah.
And I've yet to hear it. That's all.
Yeah.
But it's
I think
definitely
it's there. I think there's stuff in there that looks really. It looks like a really powerful box. But there's been lots of those over the years, and some fantastic technologies have just gone by because people, the engineers that built them have just focused on the things they think are important, and the rest of the world is going, so. And the bit that's really important has been completely missed.
I think what will help with this is that it is this different approach to synthesis. It's not it's not a completely new thing. It's a different approach, but I think they've made it very simple to get good stuff out of it. I'm finding it difficult as I'm going through it to come up with something that makes me wince. It all sounds rather good. Even the stuff as you're scrolling through the different masks, even the ones that don't sound right actually sound good. They might not be what you're looking for, but they are, and it's very quick and easy to kind of get a result. And I think a lot of people might like that. They are billing it more as a performance synthesizer than a massively deep sound creation tool. But no, we'll see. We will see. Let me just I'll quickly play this video, then we're going to move on to what Roland have been up to. But just to reinforce your point about this slurring and molly mode, which is quite interesting. Yeah, have a listen to this. So it's a very it's one of those things. I was trying to explain this to Ty. I said it's difficult to put into words. You have to actually put your hands on it and see what it can do. Ken not Ken, somebody in the chats. It was Ken. Looks like a menu diver. It's not. It's got a 4-digit LED display. You cannot be a menu diving thing with a display like that. Basically, you've got this bottom row of buttons. Each one of those accesses either the oscillators, the noise, the filter, the LFOs, the FX, the arpeggiator, and the envelopes and the modulation. Press one of those, and you press it once, there's one setting. Press it twice, there's a second setting. There's maybe 3 or 4 different settings, but it's exclusively, for that particular thing. It's very quick to fly around and start making things.
It's the kind of machine that once upon a time you would have perhaps gone out and rented just to check it out. Synth rentals are less prevalent these days, but it's certainly something which I'd love to have. I'd like to, I'd spend money just to have it for a week so I could play around with it and see whether or not it's for me.
I'll draw up an invoice.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Anyway, let's move on because we are. I can't believe we're actually. We've only got half an hour of the show left, and we've had barely any news topics. It's been great. We've been talking lots of interesting stuff. But let's go back to some of the news, and this was the big news from Roland this week. Xenology version 2.0 has been released for the Roland Cloud. It's the kind of all singing, all dancing, has all of the Zencore, I think all of the Zencore engines in, and some great effects. It's got a new effects section built in with new reverbs. You could do all sorts of wonderful things with this. It's almost overwhelmingly, big and impressive, but it's a very powerful tool, and it's part of the Roland Cloud. So if you pay for Roland Cloud, whichever tier you're on, you'll get obviously with the pro version you get everything, all the libraries and stuff. and with other ones you get sort of slightly less of that, but you get the engine anyway. And of course it has all the models that you can then spit out into things like the Juno X and the Jupiter XM and so on and so forth. Let's have a quick listen to some of the video. There's not just like a 2-minute job here, so I'm going to cut this short a little bit, but hey, let's have a look.
Xenology is the acclaimed Zen Core synth engine on your desktop, covering decades of genre-defining Roland sounds in a single instrument for your DAW. Under the hood of Xenology, you have 4 partials, each with their very own envelope, twin LFOs, and extensive matrix control slots, all going through Roland's new reverb and effects output, with over 90 effects types to choose from. This powerful synth engine comes with over 4,000 tones and over 200 drum kits. And with Roland Cloud, you have access to over 10,000 tones and over 300 drum kits, all crafted by professional Roland sound designers. The wide selection of tones cover an extensive range of instrument types and genres that sound great out of the box. And with the latest version, you have additional libraries with over 500 inspiring new sounds using all of Xenology's deep synthesis and effects capabilities. With so many sounds to choose from, you'll need a powerful browser to quickly find what you're looking for. Xenology has a sophisticated integrated browser that lets you search and rate sounds, allowing you to recall tones quickly and keep that creative workflow going. Here, we have all of Xenology's stock sounds.
Anyway, I'm going to cut that short there because it starts getting into the weeds, but you can go watch that over at Roland Cloud's YouTube channel and on their website itself. Unfortunately, because I've been packing all of my stuff away, I haven't had a chance to really sort of dig into this, but it does look like a really kind of comprehensive padding out, shall we say. When we were talking about this at an editorial meeting this week, you said, how much inches, how many column inches should we give this thing? Not many was the answer, because it really is just kind of a filling out, really. Lots of extra patches, new reverb, a new front end look, cosmetic changes. That was kind of it, really. So yeah, it's out there for Roland Cloud. It works on Mac and Windows. It has a huge amount of stuff built in. Plus, if you go for all the expansion packs again on Roland Cloud, the number of sounds and kits goes into the 10,000 plus range. Nearly 2,000 PCM waveforms. Just loads of stuff. And of course, you could edit and share sounds between the Xenology Pro and Zencore hardware such as Phantom, Jupiter X, Juno X, RD88, MC101, MC707, and others. Lots going on there. It does seem to be Roland's Falcon, shall we say? That everything in one package, so to speak, although it's a different beast of Falcon. Thoughts on this one, gentlemen? Kent even? Missed the T off there. Any thoughts on this particular one?
Forgot the C on the front. Not a great deal, really. I know they're good. It's just I don't have any Rolands. I don't think. Check. No, I don't have any Rolands. So I wouldn't get the benefit of being able to dump them down into the machines. Yeah, and I have things that are like this already. So personally, I'm all right, thanks. Is this another one of these rental jobs as well?
Subscription, yeah.
Yeah, I'm old. I don't do subscription. Do you know what I mean? I like to buy software and own it, because I is old. And
you can get a lifetime key purchase of this, so you don't have to have the cloud. And I'm just going to try.
But that's for individual instruments or collections rather than for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, if I may, young
go ahead.
I had a look earlier at the reviews for this, and there's not much because it's literally just been released. But the one video I found that made this just for me was a video that explains the different membership options, right, and the different subscription options, and it was half an hour long. Why, if you've got a half-hour video on what the subscriptions are and memberships are, that tells you something about how massively over-engineered this is, almost. Yeah. And here's the other thing with it. I think it's, if you're a Roland addict, I get it. And I love the idea when they first floated it of having, plugs for their hardware instruments like System 8, System 1, those kinds of things. I love the idea of that. So you could have your Jupiter 8 and your Junos or whatever on that hardware. But it's not the same. And you can't put everything you've got in the cloud thing onto all of those, and vice versa. It doesn't quite work like that. And the other, I suppose, the other thing, which it's not that bad. If you buy it annually, you get the Ultimate, which gives you gazillions of stuff, but it's all Roland, right? It's all Roland, and it's all that methodology, and it's fantastic sounding stuff, and it costs you £200 a year. And I think the biggest problem I have with it is that I've been poking around the nether regions of the interwebs, and also listening to this show and talking to the lovely people at Cherry and various others. And I think the biggest problem I have with it is the third-party emulations of some of the Roland synths, to my ear, sound better than the Roland stuff itself.
Yep.
And you can own them. So like the Jupiter 6, which came out, last week or whenever it was, it's fantastic. It is, I had one. I had a Jupiter 6, and that was the sound. And just looking at the sort of chat rooms and things, a lot of people have a bit of a problem with the sound. Some say it's good, but there's an awful lot of people say it's not as good as some of the other plugs. So I'm kind of a bit lost here with this. If you're a Roland fan, I suppose it's an absolute must-have, given that there are there's the Arturia V collection, and there's the V9 collection, which is just huge. There are so many, the Native Instruments stuff. There are so many other collections out there which give a much more diverse representation of synthesis throughout the ages, and or with new instruments that are completely different, doing different things. I'm not sure why I'd have this, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Roland Cloud subscriber. I have been for a few years, and as you say, it's about $189 for a Pro, Ultimate Pro, and I think I upgraded that to what they call a Pro license for life or something. Where it keeps it at a certain price, and you get to keep 2 lifetime licenses every year. You renew, you can keep 2 more synthesizers. So if I decide to stop subscribing, I've got a bunch of stuff that I'll always have. And this is probably the least used plugin that I have in the Roland Cloud. I'll use their Legendary series, but I've rarely really got into Xenology, and I think maybe I'm missing out on some stuff, but then I don't really think I am. I don't know.
I think the other thing with it is that Roland stuff. I mean, I've owned an awful lot of these synths, and I still have a few. I've got an 800 and a 101 and an 8P as well. In fact, I haven't got the 106 anymore. Wish I hadn't let go of that. But the thing with all of them is, apart from the 8P, which is currently sitting somewhere, I don't know, in a loft or something, with all of them, it's the tactility of it. You get to grips with it really quickly, and the Roland stuff is very hands-on, and I love that left to right menus. The way the things just work. You can see it's like the MMOUK, the mini MMOUK. You can do this thing. I'm not sure that translates well to cloud-based software instruments. Again, you need a dedicated hardware controller if it's going to work like that. And I think it's really good, but I also find that the site itself and the explanations of what stuff is deeply there's almost too much. There's almost too much, because it's all going to be a Roland, right?
Yeah.
There's some by the way, there's some fantastic sounds in here. Really, really good. I love it.
Well, the thing is, what always kind of confuses me is you got Xenology Pro, which you can buy for $229, or it comes as part of the subscription. Then if you want the model expansions, they're $150 or $149 if we're going to be precise. But all of those expansions are also available in the Legendary series. as plugins in their own right. So you have the 106, and you have the SH101 and the Jupiter 8. So it's almost like doubling up. And if I would rather call up the dedicated Juno 106 than go and get Xenology Pro and then go trawling through an interface that's quite confusing, whereas the interface on this is the same interface as was on the hardware. Much easier to kind of get your head around, certainly for
Although I believe that the ultimate subscription means you get all of this. So
yes, you do. Yeah.
If and that's, as I say,
that's the beauty of it.
It may sound like I'm being a bit dismissive of it. I'm not. It's just I'm not sure it's my thing. But for £200 or £200 a year, now $199 a year, you get everything. So you get the plugins and everything else. I mean it's good, but it's almost too much. And I think I would just I'd spend so long dialing through this stuff. Whereas, I kind of have a sense that with the Arturia collection, I could kind of go and just go, I want that. I want the 80 or the PPG or the something. I want these lots and lots of different things, and I can just get them and run them up, and I've got the sound I want because I'm busy composing. I'm just not quite sure exactly. I get it, but I'm not quite sure why.
The only model expansion, actually, I'd correct myself. The only model there is one model expansion for the Xenology that isn't a legendary thing, and that's the JX8P. There's a JX3P in the legendary series, but all the others do have their own dedicated legendary plugins. But the Roland Cloud itself isn't just about Xenology and the legendary stuff. There's all of there's drum machines, there's sample packs, and there's software, Zen Beats, and an absolute ton of audio content if you're into samples and loops and all that kind of stuff. It is good value in terms of quantity, whether it's the stuff that you want to use all the time, or whether you can put up with Roland Cloud Manager, which this is the new version of it, and it's actually a lot better than the last one, but it still ain't there quite yet.
It does look. I have to say, the Manager does look a lot better than it did.
It's improved in a number of ways. So hats off to them for doing that. But yeah, there you go. Xenology Pro version 2 is available now as part of the Roland Cloud subscription service, or you can buy it separately if you want a lifetime key.
So if you want the Jupiter 6, you have to go to our friends at Cherry. Ooh,
indeed, yes. I'd love to have heard the conversation at the Roland Cloud office when that one dropped. Actually, there probably wasn't much conversation. It was probably deathly silence, because they really did beat the punch, and they did it so well.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, last but not least, this is not necessarily news as such, but it was inspired by this piece of news, so we've got ChatGPT in the AI world. Now we have Radio GPT, although that's it's basically live, local, and powered by AI. Everything, all the voices, all the DJs, everything you hear in that respect is AI. The whole thing. The music obviously is not. It's it's actually playing actual music, and it will tailor itself to your locale, whatever that might be, wherever that might be. It works just like an online radio station, except there's no human people pressing buttons and giving you the stuff in between. And I listened to it, and what it sounded like was run-of-the-mill shit radio. But now there's just no human beings doing it. So in a way, I guess there's really no major difference there. It's not going to be replacing the likes of Radio 4 or certainly the realms of the BBC, but it sounded like the sort of radio you stick on in the car in America, and you hear 3 songs, 10 adverts, 3 songs, 10 adverts, that kind of thing. But it's yet another example where AI seems to be this year just getting everywhere. And Peter Gabriel was quoted this week as saying, we shouldn't be fighting this thing. We should be learning how to use it to our advantage. I'm paraphrasing, but Pro Synth Network GPT. There you go. That would actually be quite handy when we want a break. You just get maybe that's what we need. Wagyu. We need to get Wagyu to come up with a little script so that we can like put our feet up and let ChatGPT host the show.
Would ChatGPT say wank?
I'm sure if you taught it to.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But there you go. I mean, radio is now. What's next? TV. You know.
So this.
Is anybody else having a Jurassic Park moment? Right now.
It is a bit. So.
What's the worst that could possibly happen?
Futuri Media. They actually do a bunch of stuff, and it's not just the radio. They do for broadcasts. They do for newsrooms. They do a whole bunch of things. Podcasting. And you can pick and mix and do what you like with it, and it's kind of, it promises a lot. What I've heard of it so far is not that great. I'm concerned that with this particular outfit that there's almost no video content for it, really showing off what it's like. The pricing is not transparent. You have to get in contact and you have to have a whole conversation. The video I got it to make for me as part of the podcasty bit wasn't that great. I wasn't impressed by it, and it's a big but, this is, AI isn't going away. And when I started in the industry, it was just around about the birth of MIDI. And I remember being in control rooms with some really good seasoned engineers and producers who didn't have a clue about it. But I was young and feckless, and I absorbed it like a sponge, and I understood, I was thinking in hexadecimal. So MIDI wasn't an issue for me at all, nor was sampling, nor was any of that other stuff, synthesis generally. I was able to say it was my generation, and I knew it, they didn't. And so I had an advantage for a decent while. But the thing is, lots of people jumped onto that. So there were loads of people that got into the synthesis and MIDI and sampling bit when it came out and was doing its things, buying some really expensive stuff very early on. There's the Trevor Horns. Trevor Horn didn't really do an awful lot of synclavier or Fairlight programming, but he knew people that could. And so he changed his production methodology to make use of these people. He employed them to do these things, and look at the stuff that was turned out. Some of it was magnificent. Yeah. And then there's clearly there's what's his name, Chic, Nile Rodgers.
Yeah,
similar kind of thing. He had this whole production thing going, but he was a guitarist, and he was he still is a fantastically good guitarist. Has a particular way of playing, and he just laid everything else over the back. But he didn't lose the use of his particular instrument. He enhanced it by having all these other people that did this other stuff well. AI is that. I don't think Futuri Media have necessarily got it right yet, and I'm not sure about them as an outfit, but that's just because they're not being particularly transparent with stuff. They're not making it easy to find out more. But AI is coming, and you can either ignore it and predict doom, which may well happen anyway, but it's going to happen. And so it's yet another sea change for all of our industries, as AI provides a different set of tools and working methodologies that we should still be able to overlay what we know and what we do best to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's seeping into my industry as well. The day job that I do with training. I actually had somebody contact me from within our business today saying, hey, have you seen this thing where you just type in what you want somebody to say, and the AI generates not only the voice but a photorealistic character that speaks the words that you've just typed in any language.
16 languages. It's the same people.
Yeah, quite likely it is. Yeah. But it was just like, okay. So we've always had an obstacle with translation because translation, manual translation, if you want to translate an average e-learning module, certainly one of the ones that we make, you're looking at about £5,000 to £6,000 per module to translate all the text, reformat the text, translate the audio, and have that spoken by a trained, a voice artist. Now you can do half of that stuff in AI. You just type it in, it speaks it. It changes the text for you. I mean, I can see my job becoming a lot easier for a while, and then my job will probably go away.
Because, the other thing
this is where it differs from MIDI, isn't it? Because
yeah,
you were saying about with MIDI and this technology that you were able to jump on board. This is the first technology to come along that has the potential to remove you.
Yes.
From the whole thing, it's that kind of mark me well when I tell you, that kind of thing. Exactly. You don't really want to be the harbinger of doom over these things, but this does have the potential to write tracks, sing them, mix them, produce them, everything, and distribute them.
Mm.
It does
without you having to go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
And you go, well, look, we don't need to do this anymore. All right, cool. All right. And
so
what should we do?
Here's the flip side of that, Ken, because I've had a lot of discussions around this. We're using AI tools ourselves. We're using AI and machine learning for some stuff we're doing, which is to do with workflows for virtual stuff. With music and or with writing and with voice and acting, because you can get virtual performers now. There's all the talk about will actors be needed anymore. Here's the thing. AI can do a really creditable job of rendering the likeness of someone really well. So it's photorealistic. It can also do things like copy phrasing from classic composers, from rap, different DJs, or different musicians, contemporary or otherwise, and then crash them together to make a track, and then pick out some, the best sort of melodies that work with that kind of thing, and they'll turn out something that is credible, right? They'll turn out something that's credible. What they won't have, until they become sentient, and then we're in trouble.
Yes.
And sentience is still a way away. What they won't have is the lived experience of the artist that creates these things. So we make creative choices about a song or about something based on our lived experience, and it's an emotive thing. It's how you're empathic. It's how we share that. Music's very good about allowing us to share experiences and put them into music form. So whilst you can copy the notes and some of the lyrics and some of the arrangements and styles, it's being made through a popularity contest series of choices. AI is choosing what is the best combination of these that will lead to a hit that sounds like this or that does that. And there will be some hits, there will be, but there always are, right? I think.
Yeah, well, Crazy Frog did it, didn't
it? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop other music doing much, much better. And all the big, enduring, major selling artists and producers around the world have always been those which can repeat that because they have a certain sensibility, a certain point of view, and a certain lived experience that allows them to help translate that stuff. Eno, with all the projects he's worked on as a producer, allows him to translate the artist's viewpoint through his filter into something that is entirely unique. But it's not just unique; it actually has some value because there is an emotional heart to it, which people can relate to.
But you eventually you get a data resolution if you keep teaching AI. Giving it more information, more algorithms to work with. A point will come where it will, AI will write a song that you're giving it a genre to do, or it'll come up with it itself. It doesn't really know, but it would be able to write a song and be able to put the nuances that today separate a human with. A history, a background, and everything, pain and everything else into that music. The AI will eventually have enough data to work with to be able to recreate it, and And then there
Okay,
you
so
go. Then we're
it
done.
will, and this is it's a really interesting subject, and we probably need to do a whole separate thing on this. But it will. There will come a point where it becomes sentient and can do that. But still there will be, essentially there will be you're telling me this stuff, you've written this thing, I love the song, and it's speaking to me of all this, but you haven't lived that. And if someone else is writing a song, a person writes a song and says, this happened to me. I had this event happen in my life. My mother died, and this is my lived experience. This is what I felt at that time. So this is about me, and that's where art, because you can get generative art. All of these spheres are about the lived experience, and people either value that or they don't. And there will be value always, and the transition is going to be weird and it's going to take time, but there will always be value in what we as human beings put into these things, the why of what we've done. AI doesn't have a why. It doesn't have a why have I written this song? Because I can, because I can generate that and I've got enough data to make that happen. This stuff isn't about that. So yeah, there will undoubtedly come a time when more and more of this is generated artificially, but there will also be there'll still be a huge hankering for real experience from real songs written by real people that have experienced something, and they have a why to why they're putting that out, why they've written it. So I get where you're at, and and everyone has, and I will finish my point in home, but everyone has these, and guess what? With one of these, it's pretty hard to take a duff photo now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's pretty hard to even shoot shaky video. It's pretty hard to get the exposure wrong. It's pretty hard to not capture really good audio with all the noise removed and all the background stuff, because that's all being done by AI and has been for a while. It's really hard, but that doesn't mean that the person doing this, holding this, or having that is able to repeat that and actually put something into it that's unique. There's a million people have phones, billions of people have phones. There's not that many that are top-line producers of music, writers of songs, directors of films, and painters of great works of art. There aren't that many.
It's an interesting. Every time it comes up, it excites me in a way because it's technological advancement, but it also concerns me in that it's taking humanity out of the equation. But I read somewhere the other day that ChatGPT, you can't talk to it and have get an accurate response if you're talking about things that happened after 2021, because it's only the data that it's used to learn is only as it goes up to about 2021. And that will change, and that gap will get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it will be able to process more up-to-date data, I guess, at some point. But when I read that Peter Gabriel quote this week, I didn't expect him to say anything different, because Peter Gabriel is a big believer in technological advancement, and he said quite rightly, it's not going away. We have to learn to see how we can work with it and make it work for our benefit. And there will be lots of things that benefit, that already currently benefit, as you said, with camera phones. There's all sorts of machine learning going on in your phone to help you do lots of things better.
And ultimately with AI, there comes a point at which you say, well, you will be able to theoretically replace everyone's job, right? But then at that point, who's paying for what the AI is doing? Because there's not that much money left, because no one's got any money, and so there's I get it.
There are novels all about this sort of thing, aren't there?
Yeah, there's lots and lots of these, and we're living in a very interesting time. A lot of people feel threatened by it. I find it threatening. But the last part of this, my particular contribution on this is, a lot of people are saying, well, I'll it's going to make everything I've done redundant. My studio, my pieces of kit, my working methodologies that I've developed over the last 20 years will disappear. Yeah, so the thing is, for 20 years you've had those, or 30 years, or however long it is, 10 years, you've had those, and you've made money from them, right? Or you haven't, but you should have done. You should have been making some money or doing something with it. It gave you an advantage because you learnt that stuff. And if it all disappears now, guess what? Talk to Trevor Horn or to Nile Rodgers about the fact that did they lose all of their chutzpah? Did Niall stop playing guitar because synths came along and drum machines and all that stuff? No, he wrote it, and he didn't do everything exactly the same way, but he rode that particular technological movement, and that's what we're all facing. We've had a good run.
Yeah, that sounds really.
By the end of this year,
we've had a good run.
Are you gonna?
The human race is over. Yes.
Yeah, but I've already had it. Like I said to you when I did that show on Sunday, I've had that sentence that I thought I'd never hear in my lifetime from the guy from the service centre saying, "You need to software reset your tap." Which is it was a sentence I thought I'd never hear in my lifetime. And also having a robot Hoover telling me it was having trouble getting out of the kitchen in Mexican.
Señor.
Yeah, it was por favor, all you want is
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the world we live in. Yeah, this is the world we live in. So.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that this conversation will roll on and on and on as new things come out. But thank you for everyone's insights, both here in the show and in the chat as well. We've notched up 2 hour mark. We are now officially over time, and I thought we might struggle, but no. This is why we get Mr. Longhurst on, because he just
the propensity to talk bollocks,
wax lyrical about
to none.
Yeah, absolutely. I do just want to do one very last thing, because he asked so nicely, and we said we would. Yeah. James Dyson has a new, not that James Dyson, this James Dyson, who does sound sets for lots of different synthesizers. He has a new sound set out for the Udo 6, the Super 6. This is Discovery. Let's just play a little snippet of this. So this sound set is available. Basically, if you go and find James Dyson's YouTube channel, you can then just scroll down underneath this video, and there is an email address that you can use to PayPal him just a mere 10 of your British pounds, and you will get this package in return. Just make sure you leave a note in the section of the payment page on PayPal that says Discovery, and then he'll know which sound set it is that you want to purchase, and he will send that to you straight away. Well done, James. Another great sound set there. He does loads of great stuff. Obviously does a lot of Cherry Audio sound banks and other hardware synths. So there you go. We said we give it a plug.
He's got some great sound sets.
Indeed. So and they're all incredibly good value for money. So
deluxe.
Yeah. Go and fill your boots. He does also have, I believe, a Facebook presence where you can go and find out about all the other stuff that he does for various synths, both soft and hard. And on that note, we're going to draw things to a close. Andrew, thank you ever so much for coming on and regaling us with your presence as always. It's greatly appreciated. Much work lined up for you coming weeks.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff. We're doing a lot of, as I said, development, R&D in various spheres. Mm-hmm. We're still working on video stuff. We're working hard on I mentioned in the previous episode, the whole idea of mentoring and doing a CIC to bring people through, give them the experience of music. So that's all being worked on. In the meantime, we're doing lots of R&D on our 3D immersive projects that we're working on for various companies and productizing that. So yeah, we're keeping very, very busy. I should be in mid Wales sometime in the next few weeks, in the middle of a field, lidar scanning a Victorian pumping station.
I was lidar scanning my front room the other day. Because I can do that with I can do that with my iPhone. It's got lidar scanning.
We did that for our offices.
Yeah,
I've got a complete 3D model of the whole studio, which you can walk around in Unreal. Yeah. It's going to be on the site.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, it was really simple as well. I just went around the front room and just scanned it all, and then I said to the wife, the wife was sat on the sofa, and I said, "Look, there you go." It zoomed in. It's all very clever stuff. Very clever. Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for your time this evening and for all your very well done research. Another gold star is
I got
deserved.
a gold star.
Yeah. Ken, much coming up over the weekend or the coming week?
Yeah, more full voice to do, honestly.
Lovely.
Actually, a quick message for Mr. Dyson. Osmos, mate, get on it.
Yeah.
I don't know where he's getting the Osmos from. Yes, a more full voice to get up and kicking. I don't think there's much else going on at the moment. No, dog poo collecting.
Nice.
Yeah. Do the washing up, even though there's a dishwasher right beside the sink. What is that? I'm losing my mind.
I know.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Oh, well. You can guess what I'll be doing. I don't need to tell you what I'll be doing.
What will you be doing, Rob?
Packing more boxes.
No.
We're getting to that point now. We're almost a week away from the actual move. And so everything that we've left out because it's a daily use thing, we're now starting to think, well, can I get away with not watching TV or not watching this?
We don't need toilet paper. We'll
what are hands for? Yeah?
Get some dried grass or something.
I had some records delivered today. By the way, I can't show you the vinyl because I thought, there's no point me unpacking them. There's no point me unpacking the vinyl because I can't bloody play it now because I've packed the record players away. But the new Depeche Mode album is very flipping good.
Yeah.
Do not believe what you read on certain electronic music enthusiast websites who go by the name of Electricity Club. Do not believe what they say. It's bloody excellent and well worth a listen.
I'll get that now.
Yeah, and if you haven't already, please do go and listen to my Richard Barbieri podcast, which I really, really, really enjoyed doing. And Richard's such a lovely guy, and he came across really well. And there's some really good stuff coming on that thing. I've been schmoozing, shall we say, and I can't say who it is, but I'm so flipping excited. And they're an MBE. That's how important they are. They're a mother. So yeah, lots of interesting things, but I just need to get this thing out of the way. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next week or so. And I'm hoping there will be a show next week because that's like 2 or 3 days before I actually do move. So hopefully things will be just like ready to go. The week after that is Good Friday, so fingers crossed again we should be okay to do a show there. But the week after that, which is the 14th, I won't be around, so we need to figure out some sort of substitute to go and do that show. But
Hans said he was busy.
Yeah, he always
is. Well, what we could probably do is the pub, but just have the Pro Synth titles on the front.
We'll do something. We shall sort something out.
That works.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Just so that people have got something
version.
to do. So we will try our best to be around as much as we possibly can. And we will see you all same time, same place next week, fingers crossed. Some of us will definitely be here, I'm sure. And until then, have a fantastic weekend. Don't forget, there's no Rands show tomorrow. However, Henrik is doing a replacement service of which I'm supposed to be on. So I've got to try and sneak out from packing to come and sit down for a couple of hours and chat with Andy Brooks and Robin Vincent and Henrik as well. So cool. Tune into that. Links are all over the place, so you should be able to find that. Sunday, I guess Jamie's probably got a show. I don't know. I haven't checked, so apologies if that isn't happening, but go and check it out just in case there is. And yeah, we'll see you same time, same place next week. bookmark us, subscribe to us, hit that bell, come and join us at Facebook, where the whole community hangs out and does some cool stuff. So, we'll see you all in a week's time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good luck, Rob.